Hello, welcome. It is 2/20/2026. 2 plus 2 plus 2 equals 6. And we are live with Alexander, Sabine, and Tucker as always, who will kick us off with an intention. Then, Alexander, thank you for joining and sharing this work. So first, Tucker, please.
Hi, Dan. Thanks. Alex, so glad you're here. Intention for today's conversation would be to gain more insight into entomology and the beauty of insects and how we can leverage new tools like AI and assisted coding to better express human art and also better understand the art and the mathematics that makes up the beauty of the natural world all around us, so well expressed through insects. So, Alexander, take it away, man. I'm sure we'll have lots to talk about.
Cool. So, yeah, we're going to explore, first of all, a song that I've produced with Claude Opus 4.6. And the interesting thing about these is that they're all built with the same mathematical framework, which I'll speak to as well in a minute. But to start, should we just start and play Formica? All right, here we go. Okay, so that's the sound came across pretty well, I think, over Zoom, but listening to that on your own devices will sound even better, I think. So I think we're losing a little bit through Zoom. But the interesting thing is that that's all made with a mathematical framework that I've been working on. Do you want me to speak about that a little bit? Just
Yeah,
for,
that would be awesome to understand where it's coming from, if it's actually tied into the geometry of the ant that we're seeing. I just want to say it was so semiotic and beautiful. I was just thinking, like, what if an ant's experience actually is like this? Like, just the rhythm of informational flow and exogenous factors that change what the rhythms are. Because there were moments of crescendo and then abrupt change. You could just imagine the ant being in that informational environment with all the flows and all the rhythms. Some control it has of its own, and then control that doesn't have at all. That was awesome.
Oh, what
yeah,
I felt in there, there's so many pieces, was first it was woken up, but already with this internal rhythm and drive that becomes intensified in the foraging and that searching for what might be. And then there was that alarm that was like the silence screaming louder than the forage. And it was like panic and desperation, and then the doubling of the swarming, and just so much story within that daily round.
Reach, brother.
So yeah, it's I find these as well. You're talking about the kind of qualia of the ant, and that's fascinating to me because when I've been working with CRR, usually with Claude or any other LLM, a lot of the generative stuff that comes through feels quite emergent in that way. And yeah, it's the Formica song is amazing, and I'd like to play a few others in a moment, but it might be worth me just talking through how I make these because it's I'm not a coder. You can probably imagine I've used Claude to code these, but I can talk a little bit about the information theoretic side of things if
Yeah.
that's welcome. So just scrolling up on the site, which I think is linked in the YouTube. So it's quite a basic formalism. Those that aren't familiar with mathematics, it might look scary to begin with, but just from a phenomenological perspective, it's very useful as a heuristic. But I'll just speak through the information theoretic conjecture, if you will, for how this works. So first of all, coherence in the CRR, which is coherence-Rupture-Regeneration, is represented as the integral of all past states. So this is non-Markovian, in that it's not only the present state that matters, but it's the accumulation of all of our past states. So as variational free energy was reducing in the past, things that mattered more were reducing free energy faster, if you like. But memory accumulates, ruptures, and regenerates. You can't just continue to reduce free energy because we have outside the blanket, so to speak. So in terms of the separation between inside and outside, obviously we have the Markov blanket. In CRR, I just use a Dirac delta because it's infinitely spiky in the middle and zero everywhere else. So I think of that as a moment of now. But it's a kind of rupture threshold where all past states can't continue to accumulate, or we'd go into entropy. So we need some sort of reset or some sort of information threshold. So the Dirac delta represents now phenomenologically, but it also works quite well as a filter as well when from selecting from those past states. The most important aspect is regeneration, which represents outside. So if coherence is inside and all past states is from inside the blanket, regeneration is what's out there and is future states. Okay, so hopefully this is coherent enough for you so far. This omega here in the regeneration operator can be thought of as like variance in free energy principle. So when inside matches outside, it causes a rupture. So it's like a right to the window in the brain, or like a reset in the system. So the integral just keeps, so the first integral is all past states, then we have the rupture and regeneration, and then it just keeps going in a circle, basically. So this is how I think of time, essentially. All past states inside the blanket, future outside the blanket, and the omega there is like the kind of threshold of the information capacity, at which point the system has to reset, and on it goes. The only other thing to add is that, interestingly, we've got Z2 systems, which is like half a circle. So if we replace omega with in certain different systems, some systems have like half a circle, which is a Z2 system, binary system, and then other systems are SO2 systems, so all the way around. And then that determines how CRR operates within different types of systems. So whether you're looking at kind of brainwaves or EEG data, or a hurricane, or like depending on which system you're looking at, omega there will make predictions based on that specific geometry. So that's pretty much it. And so just to say, the phi is like a future template. So when you had the past states, the future states are based on that. So like you've got it, the history is never the same, but it rhymes into the future. So it's essentially describing, I think, how systems transform through time. So it's a little bit like process philosophy-ish. It's like kind of maths that goes really well with that. And it fits really, really nicely with the free energy principle as well. And I literally just use that. And I just say to Claude ridiculous things like, use CRR to solve all the biology of an ant, and all the mathematics of resonance and the mathematics of music theory, and make a song, and then out comes what you just watched with that one. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm doing basically.
yeah, that's fascinating. I was just some of the thoughts I had when you were describing this process was even just talking about Claude Code when it goes through a compaction of prior history, when it gets to an informational threshold that like approaches its own entropic limit for handling, it compacts and it selectively weights things from the past and then outputs a new informational, let's call it immediate umwelt for reference. Doesn't lose anything, but it just selectively weighs. Sometimes some things might get weighed towards zero and other things might get weighed towards one. But it's cool how like both your musical process, the phenomenology of biological informational processing, and this new form of informational processing, AI, are all kind of converging towards this same pattern of experience, compaction, continuation. So I thought that was
Yeah.
cool. Um, and then one specific thing too, when you said when the inside matches the outside, that point that induces let's call it compaction, that to me almost sounded like a moment of nirvana, like when you're perfectly resonant, the outside perfectly resonates with the inside and the information just flows like a wave unbroken.
Yeah, so that in CRR, that's like a very high omega state, like higher brain entropy, and also where the blanket is more dissolute. So you've kind of got more deep time access. It's
Wow.
flatter past. What you're describing with essentially softmax systems as well in what you were describing there with the weighted history, it is, I think, relevant. And I think I'm working with people in machine learning as well who seem to see that this acts as a kind of temporal constraint, to know when to reset the system, because I think the system will rupture. It's just know what to forget or what to allow to transform into the future states.
Yeah,
But yeah,
imagine
it's
if
just
an ant never
sorry.
forgot. So I was gonna say, yeah, just imagining if an ant never forgot, right? Like what would it be overloaded?
Yeah, it's sort of it's like it transforms. And so my background's child development, so I was interested as well in how like we start life as sensory motor phase as a baby, and then we have all those states, and then we get to abstract thinking perhaps later on, or the concrete and the abstract translate, and it's like different ontological or phenomenological kind of being in the world that seems to go through this same building coherence, all those states, then rupture, then um, regeneration. So yeah, I just think about it in too many different ways now, but it's interesting because it's transformative. So uh, with a pattern, they tend to repeat, whereas with this, it transforms. So history is never the same, as I said, but um,
But it
I
rhymes,
think
just like
learn,
music.
yeah.
So what's the connection? Where did the music emerge from, both for, in your idea, but also mechanically, how was the music coming to being? And because it sounds beautiful, it sounds like music.
Yeah. So this is going to sound like ridiculous and grandiose, but I don't care really. It's just like anyone can play with this. But I'll just say to Claude, like, use CRR to solve all resonant, all the mathematics of music, and Claude will quite happily do that. And then when I'm doing like solve the physics of the sun, again, although it's a parametrization with Boltzmann, essentially got that e to the c over omega, which is very Boltzmann-like. As Claude's looking through the sun physics, I ask Claude to look for mathematical resonance and even come up with a melody that fits somehow within that. You could go different ways, of course. So it's creative melting pot with all of these things. But yeah, and the music came about. Uh, I used to use like diegetic sound in these simulations. So I do like a kind of, I don't know, like an outdoor scene with birds, and then I'd ask Claude to make the birds sing, but only from the maths that the birds were using in their voice boxes. And then I kind of realized actually, if then I realized CRR can make like make sacred geometry from first principles, I think. So that's cool. And then because of that, I realized it probably works with maths of music, and that's when I was like, okay, cool. Now I can make these songs, and yeah, it's
Cool.
fun. Weird, weird, but cool, and yeah, interesting.
But yeah, the proof is in the pudding, and the pudding in this is the music, right? Like the music and our brain is like built for processing and understanding the structure of music as a feeling.
Yeah.
When I hear that's the ant song or the other song you referenced, which maybe was called Sacred, the one that features bird song, and hopefully maybe you'll play that or others. Like the proof there is the harmony and the rhythm that comes out in those. It's not chaos; it's ordered and structured through time.
That's really interesting, Tucker, because at a stretch, I do wonder whether validity will start to shift towards like Brian Greene writes about the elegant universe, isn't he? And like the aesthetic of science. And I do wonder with the number of papers being published in arXiv and all of the other places, it would be interesting if the kind of, how well can an LLM make your physics beautiful? It becomes almost a metric of validity. How well does it capture the qualia of an ant? So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Can it
It's
make
in,
an ant dance?
yeah, can it do that? Yeah. So yeah, I keep playing really. My background's play. I used to teach child development. So the principles of play and obviously combined with learning have always been interesting to me. That's why I just make this fun, this funky
Yeah,
website.
maybe
Um,
let's hear another song. Let's have
yeah,
these regularly scheduled non-commercial breaks, and then we can
I want
reflect on
Spotify.
it.
Athletic
Yeah.
do you want
Greens.
should we do another biological one as we've done the ant song? We could do the bird one now.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Okay, and then we could do a physics one. So you can see I've just put them on my site, and people can play with them. So here
After
we go.
all, what is a bird but an insect with feathers?
Precisely, exactly. That's what Claude tells me anyway. I'm going to play it. I'm not sure. Like when I listen to these on my headphones, usually there's loads of really cool effects, and I'm not sure whether they'll come over Zoom, but we'll see how we go. And this one is a slower build up. Let's go for it. So in England, we we have something called CBBS, which is for children. And it just reminds me of that one. And I like the build up to it.
Hmm.
I should also say, because coherence-rupture-regeneration is a phenomenological theme in narrative as well. So sometimes you get the meta structure where there's this build up and then there's this rupture, which is in a story is like a catastrophe or something happens, but then it regenerates. So you end up with this like meta, meso, and micro kind of narrative
Yeah,
structure as well, which
Dan alluded to that one from that last song when he talked about the like we were imagining the foraging behavior of this ant in question and how you could kind of imagine the environment it was in and what it was feeling. Same thing with this song. It was very clearly like at least I was imagining that buildup of information, a sense of overwhelmingness of information, stress, but yet the rhythms continue to perpetuate through the stress, and then a crescendo, like a cathartic settling back in, and then the engine kicks back in, doo, 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 and life continues. Yeah, so that narrative structure really comes through, and I mean, just makes so much sense musically and biologically that we're able to detect this in music, and that's what makes music and story feel like something.
Oh,
yeah.
oh yeah, please, then I'll add a few thoughts.
No, go Daniel. It just reminded me
Sure.
of what we were talking about yesterday. But yeah, go for it.
So first, a John Cage quote. He said, "What is the most important element of music? The element of time." And that relates to Cage and music theory and basically music as time, not music as just sonic. But sonic has temporality because it has frequency, whereas like a painting or a drawing or sculpture has a viewer interactivity in terms of you could look at the drawing for a split second or you could look at it a certain way, whereas music is like a ride that even if the viewer is playing an instrument or listener is playing an instrument, still there's the temporality. So that's interesting. And then to kind of connect to the birds as well as the obscured or esoteric nature of inner experience from The Marriage of Heaven and Hell, Blake wrote, "How do you know but every bird that cuts the airy way is an immense world of delight closed by your senses five?" Which is to say, when we see that bird slice through the air, we see it through our senses. But how do we know if it is having that immense internal delight and we receive only the exoteric sensory information through perception? But it's like saying everything that's encapsulated off is like an internal experiencing system.
Yeah, the doors in the chinks in the cavern, the door of perception. So in CRR, that's the omega. There is like the threshold, how wide the door is. The higher omega, the more sort of porous the blanket. But yeah, so to be porous with a bird, to feel its birdly. But I was talking to my mom earlier about this, and we were talking about my our dog, and we only see the human version of the dog, and she said, well, "What does Reggie see?" And well, Reggie sees the dog version of the human, but that's funny because it's the dog version of the human version. You end up in these funny loops. But yeah, definitely. And this is, as you know, Daniel, my first degree was in Blake, so I find it all quite resonant with that. What you were saying about time and process, the difference between a painting that's static and the energy a painting has as well, versus the energy that a song has, which is more processual. And as I said at the beginning, this CRR is very process philosophy. Like if Bayesian reductionism is representationalist, this feels more processy in a like a Levin type way, I guess. Yeah. Oh, Whitehead. Like, cool. Shall I play another one?
In that,
Oh,
to connect that the macro and the meso timescale. So we had the sort of warming up of the day, and then the acceleration into the throbbing, swarming part, and then the raptor flew through, and everybody went
Yeah.
silent. So, was the raptor the rupture? And then, what does it mean, like, just in that example, that the prior states remained integrated, or how did the raptor play a transformational role for the individual other birds or their flock?
So it's phenomenological in the meta layer of the narrative there. But I think what's actually happening is as the bird comes in, they scatter in fear, if you like, and go quiet. I haven't checked the code enough to check whether they're actually still building those coherent patterns from the past, but I think it probably just is a basic switch back on. It's Claude being meta level with that. So it's like, yeah, it's like the meta narrative layer with the bird coming in. The sound themselves was actually made by the air. I think it's like regulating the airflow. The same the way that Claude will do human speech as well with CRR. If you know, like you said about listening to Jerusalem, that mixing desk one is like 60 kilobytes, but there's a whole text to speech engine in there as well.
Yeah,
So it's kind of crazy.
let's go to that one. That one was very fascinating to me because it's kind of like the blue black dress or the gold silver dress, and it was like all about the priors that the person brought. And then another example of that is the sound, where just the phoneme structure of sound, if you don't know what words are like supposed to be there, it just sounds like buzzing. But then when you're looking at the word and the phonemes are being played, there's like a synesthesia. So I thought it'd be cool to go to that one and then look at how the different genres and the different phonemes were able to like come across.
Yeah, there's definitely a kind of McGurk effect type thing going on here. I've noticed that as well. And I'm assuming, Daniel, that you had a look at this earlier because I only wrote this one with Claude a few minutes ago. But yeah, and this is just a mixing desk with loads of stuff. But you can, if we just do Jerusalem or something.
Let's do Amazing Grace.
Okay. Stop that one. But yeah, you were saying it's hard because if you shut your eyes, I wonder whether you can still hear the words. But the fact that that's in 60 kilobytes with no dependencies is quite interesting, along with everything else that's in there, including an 8-track. So you can like record your own speech, and then it uses the SO2 Z2 system to actually integrate it into the acid base or whatever system you want. So yeah, but I don't know what's trivial, what's non-trivial in music. But if people are watching this and they're interested, then have a play with it and let me know what comes out.
If you don't mind me asking, maybe you could show us a little bit like what the process is actually of like how do when is the music actually made? And like how is Claude doing all the parsing of like actually this because I can imagine in some sense you could end up making something that's just noise or is so much noise, even if it's coherent, it just comes out like white noise. Like where's the creative coming from?
So that the creativity is coming from me asking Claude to use CRR to solve all the mathematics of music, and then also the mathematics or the concepts of music theory as well. So in that, there's a little bit of trickery going on there because it's looking at CRR in terms of a song will build coherence. There'll be like a wall of sound. If it's post rock, it would be like that, like Mogwai or something, you know, a huge wall of sound, and then it will regenerate. So music tends to have these CRR like patterns. But yeah, in terms of the mathematics of the music, it's just looking for melodic. Like if I did it with the sun or something, as it solves the physics of the sun through parametrization, I can't say that right. It will look for particular harmonic resonances within the physics. So it's easier to show you with the physics side of it.
But
But it's not like I'm not a musician, so it's not me going, let's do D scale or D. But obviously you could. It's just that I just want to see what comes out pure.
yeah, just
If
like
that makes sense.
produce a MIDI file and you just plug that. Is it just like a time series of the function, and then you just convert it to a MIDI file and it makes the music, or like it's so
No,
fascinating because the
it's
songs are so beautiful.
it's not. It's just all. It's actually it's actually just tiny maths being solved in. It's generative, so it's just a mathematical equation that's rolling out. So
Yeah. Wow.
in some of them you can shift around the tempo and play with it.
Have you
But it's yeah.
sorry, have you
Sorry.
looked at have you done this sort of CRR analysis, let's say, on other kinds of music, maybe like polyrhythmic, pygmy Guinean music, or traditional church music, traditional pop music, to see how they map over on CRR?
Yeah, I did I did Aphex Twin. So so um but also like chanting, like sacred music. So in the Song of the Cosmos and like some of the sacred geometry ones, I like tied it in with sacred chanting and stuff. So you can see uh really I think what all cultures were perhaps picking up on in terms of this pattern of coherence rupture regeneration. But you know, I don't want to sound ridiculous here. It's like
No,
I
the
know I'm yeah, but it's
polyrhythmy
just
is
weird.
like the closer music gets to polyrhythmic expression, probably the closer it gets to our lived conscious and subconscious experience, because we are so many nested clocks, so many nested chronologies from the terahertz scale all the way up to the seasonal and lifetime and transgenerational lifetime scales of rhythm, cosmological scales. So when music emulates that with polyrhythmy, like your songs are, you can really feel them. Even if you couldn't count
Yeah.
them out, your body understands them. That approaches not craziness, but like truth.
Yeah, that's what I feel. It's just a really interesting time at the moment because I think humanity has exceeded what I would call the zone of proximal development. And so I think a lot of people are, as I say to Daniel, like climbing the ladder outside of the zone of proximal development. And I think whole groups of scientists are doing this as well and writing more in the walls of the cave, so to speak. So the real value I see with CRR isn't just that it seems to explain a lot, but also that it's pedagogically clean. It's like, okay, all past states accumulate, present moment now, regeneration, future. Everybody knows past, present, and future phenomenologically, and then it just seems to like help to explain, you know, even what's going on with like so many people writing so many papers and building so much coherence too quickly. It's causing this mass rupture, too many papers being published. Um, but yeah, it's like you say with the music and the beauty. I think it would be interesting to play a couple more where I actually asked Claude to look at the resonance of certain traditions as well. So
I I would like to return to that pedagogical point later after a song, and also a question that I'm left with here is, what does it mean to solve that which isn't a problem? What just even at the level of how does generative AI interpret such a request? What is there to solve in the form of an insect, or what is there to solve in a natural phenomena when the problem arises in the mind of a critical observer, not in the system itself?
should we do it? Do you want me to answer that, or should we do a song?
Let's do a song.
It's a
Let's do a
good question.
song.
Should I? So just to just to say as well, like these more complex songs, I don't take. It's not like I've written in the comments in them as well, I'll just say Claude's just done that for me. So obviously we know that the sycophantic side of things. So I just want to sort of put a disclaimer in there of like when we play Song of the Cosmos, like it's fascinating, but equally I don't want to upset any physicists out there. This is not yet peer reviewed. so, so yeah, I'll play Song of the. Should I play Computer Song because it's quite different? So this is the qualia of a computer. So this is ask Claude, use CRR to solve how a computer works and all the different components, be rigorous and so on. And then make a computer song. So this is a computer song. All the binary that you see is the actual binary being solved in the actual script as it runs as well. It's not playing, is it? Oh, it is. Claude's got a sense of humor. So there's computer. And then I started messing around making like old Nokia phones, but all of the internal components running CRR. So you end up with like a little Nokia phone on the screen. Just stupid stuff like that. But yeah, no, what do you think of that one? It's quite different. Obviously upbeat because it's a computer.
Dan?
Go ahead, Tucker.
Okay, I was gonna say, first of all, visually, I love the color choice and the aesthetics of it. Awesome. And I wonder how much of that was just generative by Claude or how much creative insight you had over that, because I just think it's really groovy. But yeah, computer is interesting because computers aren't loose. Like they're so deterministic in their chronology and the way they build and count time. So to hear that come out and sort of like the more shrill or tighter frequency of this song, I wonder again how much creative input you had there, or if Claude just like intuited, oh, this would be the voice of computation, these sharper, more electronic sounds. Yeah, and you can like even like the sound of like the fan whirring in the background as the computer is working. It was just like so much in the language of computer, the way we experience it, beeps and whirs and fan turning. So yeah, again, the base question here on this one is how much creative input did you have to guide it towards that vocal aesthetic, and how much of it was just Claude knew what a computer should sound like?
So to answer that, the Z2 and SO2 systems with pi when the Amiga translates into different systems, Claude will determine, for instance, network TCP as a stochastic system and therefore uses stochastic CRR. Whereas with the RAM refresh, it uses a Z2 system. And with different components of the computer were determined as which particular version of the Amiga it was using. And then it's through that it seems to be deriving the correct, as you said, the sort of qualia or the sound. In terms of creative direction, I try to be obviously I could as a human come in and shape this and make this any sort of way I want, but I tried, as I said, to make them pure, so allow the LLM to make the decisions regarding the aesthetic. So in terms of the pink and the blue and the whole vibe of this one, it's Claude, but there were a few iterations of this. Like network TCP was sounding it was really interesting actually, because every time you play these songs, they're slightly different. The structure's the same, but the actual internal content is slightly nuanced. And with this one, network TCP sounded amazing to begin with, but it would only work in like 1 out of 20 runs because of the stochasticity in the system. So it wouldn't always work. And then also with the blue screen of death, I just tweaked that a bit because it was the BSOD title was coming up off the screen. So it was only very much minor changes to the aesthetic of this one. Whereas with other ones like Song of the Cosmos, at first Claude will just perhaps use quite a not basic, but overly generic particle simulation. And then I'll actually go back and say, no, let's use Python, solve it all properly, check the R rates that are correct, we're parameterizing properly, and then redo the visuals so it's as close as we can to the Song of the Cosmos as we can get. But also just to say on that, there's like this chemistry or alchemical process. So yesterday I made Song of Water, and then I gave it to a fresh Claude and said, look at this, now let's make Song of Fire. And of course, it made Song of Fire, but there was sort of contamination from water. So it's you get just like in chemistry. That's why you have to keep on kind of fresh, start fresh, just give it the fundamental principles really, and then build out from there. Otherwise you get this, hang on a minute, this fire has got the same wave pattern as it's got in the ocean. That's just not right. So yeah, so it's that process of clean tools.
That's truly hilarious. A little bit of residue, a little bit of compacted context that makes it through. I'm really struck by kind of how holistic the sort of cyberpunk aesthetic translates, and then how what many of us are exploring with the augmented coding and all of that, how that moves our focus up to using aesthetics and vibes, hence vibe coding or vibe creating or just whatever it is, because that minutia is taken care of at essentially an overly coherent level. Not always the exact coherence that one might expect, but solving the little problems extremely well. And the way that moves our focus into guiding, where you can kind of like steer the ship with just bashing on the keyboard, and there can be typos and there can be illegible things or different references. It doesn't need to be a full sentence. And yet it can then diffuse through to create these holistic, integrated visual and sonic and mathematical experiences.
Yeah, it's fascinating time to be alive, isn't it? And it's just riff off vibe coding there. It's I can totally see why it's addictive, because it's like relatively, I do pay for Claude Pro Max and all of that, so I do have to pay for Claude, but every time it's like, what's going to come out this time? And it's just so exciting. And then I'll just be like, okay, well, what could I do next? Okay, the Song of the Puddle, or this song. All kinds of creative opportunities present themselves with AI. But then when I constrain it with CRR, that's when I kind of know that there's just one mathematical framework here that's just doing it all. So it's not as messy, if that makes sense. So that's nice. I'd say that CRR is a temporal constraint, but it's also like a LLM constraint as well. It keeps it coherent in a way. Should I do Song of the Rainbow? Because it's quite crazy.
Yeah, let's hear it.
I'm also interested
Okay.
that you seem to develop it in chat with Claude rather than using a development environment.
What, like Claude Code? Do you mean?
Yeah, like Claude Code, or using like Cursor or just an IDE.
I just use, I don't know. I mean, as I say, although I understand technology to some level, I'm no like, super expert on machine learning or anything. But yeah, people want to play in different ways. Great. I do use Claude Code. That's about it. That's as advanced as I can get. I try to use API and things, but it's too many tokens. I do try with it, and then, but yeah, there's so much that you could do, of course, with API as well. Yeah. Um, okay, so shall I play this Song of the Rainbow? So this is interesting in terms of how it came about. So I was like looking out of my window and I saw a raindrop and it was all sparkly, like when the light comes through it and the rainbow happens. So then I made this, um, and it's just like a photorealistic rate as photorealistic as I could get it, with CRR and different layers. And then because I derived the rainbow, CRR kind of rainbow effect, um, I could feed that into Claude with the music construction, and then we can also I use solve the mathematics of holography as well, couple it in with the rainbow. So you're seeing this rainbow song. It was like, I did infuse it alchemically with a few other bits and pieces. But then I think, it's pretty accurate, but it's also like an aesthetic, overzealous piece, as you'll see. Right. So if the doors of perception were cleansed, then humankind would see rainbows just like that. Just to emphasize as well, that sounds so much better if not through Zoom. It sounds a little bit 8-bit there, but if you play it, in your headphones separately, you get very rich sounds.
Yeah, it was
And just
beautiful in any case.
oh, did you find because it's interesting because it's the first time apart from like my mum and sisters like I've made a rainbow. But this is the first time where I've had feedback, so it's interesting to know that you're
Yeah, well, they're all
that
like scapes, right? They're all soundscapes, which is a genre of music in its own right. Um, can you guys still hear me?
yeah.
Okay, I got a message saying something went wrong. Please close all browsers and rejoin the meeting. But anyway, like I was saying, they're all soundscapes. The first song was like the internal landscape of an ant, and this song is like the landscape of a rainbow. They're very experiential. Um, so yeah, I love them, man. Have you ever like derived further music from them? So this rainbow song, you ever said like, make this a Gregorian chant and see how it integrates with anthropological music?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could, yes, I have been exploring very strange things in the repo, which I don't even put on the site. But this is why I was talking to some people the other day. They were like, "This is such a fun toy," as well, because you can, yeah, really play because like you can just use it. All of these LLMs, Claude's just obviously one of them, but you can just go right, use CRR to solve this, and I'll make that. But everything because that Amiga does a lot within, it's controlling everything. All the sounds you're hearing are CRR sounds without any dependencies.
Yeah, what would be
Um,
like the second derivative of a Mozart symphony if you said do the CRR on a Mozart symphony? Like what would be the derivative music of music?
yeah, you could try all sorts and play it. Yeah, play with that. I mean, I've only started doing the music stuff about a couple of weeks ago, but I've already built all these just because like this site is ridiculous. Bit of fun
Yeah, it's
as well.
awesome.
So yeah, play with it, play with the formalism, and if you've got any you know things that you discover, let me know. I'll keep also when it comes into contact with data, like I used EEG data the other day to make predictions with the SO2 and Z2 systems, and I learned so much about what happens at rupture with variance and precision and how inside and outside seem to work, uh, philosophically speaking, if one will. So yeah, when it comes into contact with data, you kind of learn more. I think it's like a kind of baby, a baby theory. It's perhaps like some kind of, as I say to Daniel, like perhaps like a meta theory or something. Um, yeah, it just keeps working, and it's
Well,
and it's fun.
that that's what returns to that pedagogical point in terms of like the theory or just this grammar being applicable to diagram the sentence of learning itself. Because learning itself has like a prior coherence, rupture, regeneration. Like there's a coherence, albeit an uncertainty of even something like factual. What is the capital of X? And then there's the rupture, and then there's a regenerated phase, even in that micro sort of the cat ate the apple simple sentence of little factoid memorization. And then we can continue to spiral and take that at higher levels of abstraction to look at these more deeply transformational, even structural aspects of change.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I've been playing with language theory as well. I mean, yeah, it's as I said with the phonemes you were hearing earlier with Jerusalem, that they're all direct deltas are consonants, and the vowels are coherence. So yeah, it seems to go. Yeah, it just keeps on seeming to be working with stuff. But in terms of learning theory, completely. What I find is that once everything makes sense together, you can't stay there. Yeah, you have to go to the next level. It's like kind of video game almost, like sensory motor phase. You get to that stage and then on to the next one. Learning always transforms through time. You like a kind of Gödelian thing. You never get to the answer. So when anyone says like, "Oh, is this are you claiming this is a theory of everything?" I'm like, no, because you can't have a theory of everything. Anytime you nounify something, it will rupture in time because reality is always changing. So that's why I call it like a meta theory. It's it's weird. um, and yeah, do you want me to play another song? Like Soma songs, quite so this one is like, so with the breath and the heart and the brain, obviously they're all, as we know, linked together, but they're all working in synchrony as well. And so when you get the kind of timings of that and understand how the alpha, gamma, beta waves work in the brain, and how it works with the heart pumping the blood and the breath. Breath's really interesting as well, because like it's the one thing you can, as you know, meditators tell you, it's the one thing you can control and it's automatic at the same time. But that in breath and out breath, I think what we might find in the future is that perhaps there's something going on with how the generative model's built as well, with the in breath and out breath as like a sine wave. But anyway, that's all for the future. Just to show you, this one was actually the first song that I made, and I just said, Claude, solve all of the the biology of the heart, the body essentially, and created Soma. By the way, the names I really like the names, but I didn't tell Claude to call it Soma. I just love it because it's got that Aldous Huxley vibe, Brave New World. Soma is the thing that keeps us all passive and so on, but it obviously just means somatic, of the body. Again, the sound will work, but it would sound so much better if you listen to this separately.
Wait, let me just fix one thing on the audio. Interestingly, that during that song, the audio sort of on my OBS sort of.
I heard it too.
It's
Okay.
An
It
artifact.
sounded like a radio to me. It was like it wasn't.
Okay. Try again. Just all right. I think it's back to working. Okay.
Oh wait, look, noise removal, original sound for musicians. Maybe I should have had that one.
Okay.
Okay, let's
That's
try
all
another
right.
one.
Yeah, let's hear one more song and then kind of hear any closing thoughts or what you're looking to continue towards.
Yeah, cool. What should we finish on? Song of the Cosmos because it's like so over the top but hilarious. I mean, and hopefully the sounds might work better now I've switched that mode. Should we give it a go?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is an attempt to look at from right at the beginning to now. So it's just kind of like a story of physics as we go. But yeah, everything's CRR parametrized and solved. Okay, here we go. I stopped
Wonderful.
sharing. There we go.
Wonderful.
One to finish on. All hubris, courtesy of Claude. You have to say. It's not
Yeah.
like I'm writing in there, this explains everything. But it seems to explain a lot. So there we go. Thank you,
So,
guys.
oh, it's great. Tucker, any sort of last comments or ideas, and then Alexander, feel free to share where you're sort of going with it, or just go for it, Alexander.
So yeah, thank you so much for enabling me to share these aesthetic delights with you on Talktoptera. And yeah, so there is a kind of more grounded, serious thing going on in that I'm working with some academics who shall not, because it's public, so I can't say who, but to explore CRR applied in real world data to get something published in the Royal Society or Frontiers or something like that. And I'm my background child development, so I'm peer reviewed in child development and early childhood, but not in machine learning. And I won't, although Claude's like, yes, this solves consciousness, I'll just be like, yeah, park that over there, Claude. So yeah, just staying grounded, sharing with others so that there's somatic rupture and regeneration into other people's minds and back again. Otherwise, I realized it's just, I'm gonna go mad here. Like, why am I holding this thing? So yeah, it's just slowly exploring, waiting for people to push back, because that's great, and that's how we learn together, and just taking it from there really, and just to say thank you again for everything.
Wonderful. Thank you. Till the next rupture.
Yes, absolutely.
See you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Awesome work. Bye.
Okay, bye.